Right, guys, quickly, just before we get into this video, this is a clip by James Sexton and myself from the documentary Fatherless Generation. You can watch the whole thing on our school community, the link is below, but the reason I posted this is because it's just too valuable for young men. I think by listening to this, you'll understand a lot of what I try and teach on this channel, what I try and encourage you guys as you get older and how it feels. And James is a genius. He was inspiring me throughout the whole interview, and I think this next 6-7 minutes is going to be the most important video that you've ever watched as a young man. So enjoy. I hope it inspires you like it did me. It will sum up a lot of things in your own life. It will make you feel better about the future, and it's a good one.
But, you know, the hard thing and the right thing are usually the same thing. And it's the only way you get anything good, you know? So I really do hope that I understand why this younger generation of men are feeling so defeated and are feeling so useless and are feeling so vilified. How could they not? But I don't know that the remedy is walking away. I want to believe it's not. I want to believe that we can recapture all of the wonderful things that make a man, all of the best things of manhood. I mean, I feel like it's a privilege to be a man. I'm very happy to be a man. You know, I like what comes with being a man. I like the hard work of it. I like being someone who's defined by how I can protect and provide. Like, I'm proud of that. It has tremendous value to me. You know, I don't want to be a recipient. I want to be the one to create and to give. So I think we have to start reminding young men that that's not only the core of who they are, but it can be their defining characteristic. And we have to inspire them again, as opposed to vilifying.
I feel ready to run through a wall for you. Do you? I can see you nodded.
Good. Do it. We need it. We need it, man.
You should be in movies. That's the next move. Podcast into movies.
Oh, I'm 52. The next move is going to be me sitting on a couch someday.
Do you know what? That's encouraging, actually. I'm 31 and I'm like, I love your confidence level. And I'm like, okay, so that's ahead for me. Do you know what I mean? I've grown as a person now, and I'm like,
God bless. You know, I have a lot of young lawyers that work for me in their 30s. My oldest son is 27. He's an attorney. He's an assistant district attorney in the Bronx. He just got engaged actually 2 weeks ago. I told him it's terrible for my brand, but he did it anyway. And the truth is, you know, I remember my 30s very well. And I was newly divorced. I had fairly young kids. And I really remember that as a time in a man's life where it starts to feel like, okay, I can't afford to make mistakes anymore. You know, in your 20s, you can make all these mistakes. And it was like, hey, you're learning, you know. Yeah. But in your 30s, you were like, yeah, I'm past the point where I can make too many mistakes or else the pack is just going to go right past me. And then in your 30s and 40s, it's like you're spending so much time trying to build and accumulate and create some kind of abundance or create some kind of reputation and basis and foundation for all the things that you want for yourself and for the people that you love. And then by your 50s, it's like it feels so good if you've done it the right way, because you go, okay, I don't have to prove anything anymore. You know, I don't have to. Like, I just don't have to do that anymore. And I know who I am and I know who I'm not. And like, I have things I can be proud of and I have things that I'm not proud of, but you know, I did the best I could at the time. And it's like, you start to really look at least I've started to like look at kind of everybody with a certain compassion, because I look at the young guys in their 30s who work for me and I'm like, oh dude, I remember that. Like, I remember young kids. I remember all of it, you know? And so I hope you enjoy every stage of the journey the same way that I did. You know, I wouldn't go back. I wouldn't go backwards. And I am excited for, you know, the next decades and what those hold. So we were actually given a tremendous gift to grow up in a time where, you know, those, like the unfortunate reality of growing up when I grew up in the 70s and early 80s was men had two choices. You could be Clint Eastwood or Richard Simmons. Those were like your two choices, you know? And that's a really unfair choice. Because being totally cold and unfeeling and unemotional, or being just like absolutely feminine, is like, that's not the choice, you know? But one of the things we did get that was amazing was all that Clint Eastwood stuff, was about all the samurai stuff, all the gunslinger cowboy stuff.
Yeah.
It was really the best of masculinity.
Yeah.
It was this idea of like, I heard someone say once, and I always loved it, that a man fights, like a warrior fights, not because there's hate in his heart for the person in front of him, but because there's love in his heart for the people behind him who he's protecting.
Yeah.
And I loved that idea. And that's why I went into this work, because I wanted to be a warrior. I want to use my gifts, my verbal gifts, my storytelling, my ability to think fast on my feet, to help people who are genuinely in need of that assistance, and there's a great quote from Risa Sardonicus. I have resigned myself to temporary complicity with evil in order to accomplish certain specific objectives for people whose suffering is greater than my need for moral purity.
Okay.
And I love that quote, because ultimately what it's about is saying, look, I will do what has to be done dispassionately and without regard for its morality, because the needs of the people I am protecting, their suffering, is more important than my need to be morally pure. I really believe that the sum total of wisdom I've ever had to offer to any of my sons is the hard thing to do and the right thing to do are almost always the same thing.